welcome to Her Path to Success, brought to you by the Arab American Women's Business Council. So what we're going to talk about in this episode is a little bit about work-life balance. And I feel like that's a lot of professionals, young and old and in between. They have a hard time balancing their career and their social life and their families and their kids and their extracurricular activities and everything all between. So it's a little difficult. So I brought with me today a panel of beautiful women that have a little bit of tips and just some suggestions on how they handle things. So we're going to go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, first I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of the panel. My name is Jumana Jude. I am an entrepreneur. I own a commercial appraisal firm. I have two children, 27 and 25, and I have been a single mom since they were both 3 and 5.
Thank you.
My name is Najwa Ali. I am a mother of two beautiful children, a 13-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I teach for Dearborn Public Schools.
My name is Jamila Jesus, and I actually work for JP Morgan Chase. I'm a business relationship manager, and I also am married and have two children, ages 2 and 7.
My name is Amanda Abukader. I work in public relations and communications at Fleischman Hillard, which is an agency, and I work in their downtown Detroit office. I'm single, so no kids, no husband.
So Amanda, as our token single person, I think some people, what they tend to say is, oh, what's your excuse? You don't need to have a balance. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Let us know, what are the problems you run into?
You know, I think I'm really fortunate at Fleischman Hillard just because they are really open-minded. It's a fun place to work. But I think it is hard being single. You know, without having children and without having a husband, there's really like no excuse to not get your work done. And sometimes that tends to go into long hours. And just my personality, I'm very driven and I don't like to leave things not done. So I end up working a lot of weekends and I end up working a lot of nights. Like yesterday I was watching the Olympics and like checking emails at the same time. But it's really difficult to sort of find a reason not to step back from the computer and not to be working.
So what are some of the questions that you might have for us that?
I'm always really impressed by mothers who are working and they're taking care of their kids. And all of the women that I've seen that I've worked with, you know, it's crazy to me because I feel like I can barely handle what's on my plate and I don't have anyone looking up to me. So I really guess my question to the three of you would be, how do you manage life at home while managing life at work?
Jamila?
So I guess I can maybe give what's made me actually successful, or you know what's helped maybe keep me going. I have a incredibly supportive family, my husband, so I know that definitely makes it a little bit easier. I have tons of friends who are stay-at-home mothers, and I always say, they say I don't know how you do it, and I say I have no clue how you do it. So for me, it's never been really an option. I've always wanted to go out there and work and have a career. But I also have a network of family that is extremely supportive, that helps me, I think, get through it. And I think, you know, maybe if I was put in a position where I didn't have that, my answer would be completely different. So
I think I feel the same way. I have family that supports me as well. My husband is extremely supportive. But I think that every morning I wake up and I'm feeling inspired. So when I get up in the morning, I just set attainable goals for myself. I don't, you know, I set a couple of goals because I did struggle before when I would have 6 or 7 goals in my head that I wanted to complete for the day. And then when I don't, I fall asleep at night feeling unsatisfied and, you know, unfulfilled. But if I only set 1 or 2 and get more than that 1 or 2 done, then I definitely, you know, go to bed at night feeling satisfied with what I've done and, you know, reflect the next day on about, you know, the previous day and how I can get more done that way.
Well, when I became single with my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old, I didn't really have anyone to rely on because all my siblings were much older than me and they were not available to help me. So I became an entrepreneur and started my own business from home so that I could take care of my kids and also earn an income. And my key to success is keep a to-do list, stay focused, and just worry about what today, the challenges of today, because juggling all those balls, you really don't even have time to think about tomorrow. But to-do lists and just stay focused.
I know for myself, I've been married for about 2.5 years. And before that, I was constantly busy. I was single and working full time. And I was just go, go, go. I wouldn't get home till 11 o'clock at night. And I would say, wow, I don't have time for anything. And all my friends that are mothers would say, what are you complaining about? And I would just laugh. I'm like, oh, you don't understand. So I thought I was busy before. And then I got married. And my husband had 2 daughters from a previous marriage. So instantly I had kids. And then I had a son of my own. So then I have 3 kids within 2.5 years. And now I look back and say, what was I doing with my time?
Right.
So really my advice is just take it one day at a time. And I think just because you don't have kids doesn't excuse that you're not busy. You can still not have kids and be busy and still need to have that balance. So just stick with it and keep going.
You know, one of the things that I tell people that ask me, how did I do it as a single mom? When you don't have options, you simply don't have options. But when you do have options, you spend a lot of time saying, well, should I do this or should I do this? But when you know your 5-year-old is coming home from kindergarten at 2 o'clock, there are no options. Whatever it is you're doing will have to stop, and you need to get home. I found when there are no options, it's a little bit easier because you don't really have to worry about it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we hope we helped you out as the single person, and we look forward to working with you more. And I just wanted to thank you so much for joining our panel today.
Of course, yeah.
Amanda, being the busy person that she is, and balancing, gonna have to take off and do what you need to do.
No,
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
One of the questions that I think is really hard are, what are some of the tips that you would give other working mothers or single mothers, and even sometimes stay-at-home moms for balancing, but definitely between the work life? What are some of the suggestions that you would give on how do you balance things? So we'll start with Shamita.
So it's so funny because one of the biggest things growing up, I think, I had a stay-at-home mother. My mom never worked. My dad was always the one that went out and worked, and my mom stayed at home, kept the house tidy, made sure that there was dinner when we did come home at 2 or 3 o'clock and whatnot. And it was always these big, elaborate, like cultural meals. And so I think that that's something I grew up with, always the pressure of saying, oh my gosh, I have to have this, amazing dinner cooked every night, and it can't just be, a sandwich or whatever. So I think that that's like one thing I struggled with. And as my kids got older and I wanted to just, spend more and more time with them, I realized that that's really not that important. So I started to, cut things out, maybe either meal prepping before, to make sure that the time that I have with my children is time that I'm actually spending with my family, but not just spending, being, stressed out about my work day and coming home and trying to figure out, how to cook a meal and get their showers in and do their homework. And so I think that that's something that kind of keeps me sane while I'm at work and happy to be at work, and not having that constant guilt when I am at work and away from the kids. And then when I go home, I feel like I'm actually, spending that valuable time with them and on the weekends.
Right, that's a big thing, is that mom guilt.
The mom guilt
Why am
never
I
goes
at
away.
work? Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm at work and I'm missing my kids, or if I'm home with my kids, I'm like, well, I should be working, and it's just pulling yourself. So I think
It
that's
is.
really good.
And I think it's too finding the right career. So like I think I found a job recently, that has some sort of flexibility.
Yeah.
I know Jemana alluded to that by saying she, started up a business from her home where she had the flexibility to just
Right.
drop everything and go get, her child from school. So I think it's also finding that job or that career where you're not going to feel that constant guilt, but, telling my son, hey, I got a new job, so I'll be able to go to school all the time to all of your functions. And
Right.
so I think that that's important too.
Very good. Ezra?
I think like staying focused, understanding why it is we're doing what we're doing as a parent and someone seeking a career or who wants to, have a career. I think I like to focus on what's most important first. So do first things first and prioritize. And in my situation, I feel like my children are number one, and then my career comes after that. And in order for me to like provide them with like these rich, meaningful experiences where you want to spend all that time with them, I find out what it is that they want to do. I don't want to worry about things like the laundry. I don't want that to hold me back from, having these good experiences with my children. So I'm not going to worry about something that is going to happen in a month. I'll deal with that in a month. And so just focus on what's most important today and get that done. And again, it just goes back to the goal setting. If I start with, simple attainable goals in the morning, throughout the day I work my best to get them completed. And then at night I feel fulfilled. My children are satisfied and they've had, great meaningful experiences. So.
Great, thank you.
And you're never caught up on laundry. I don't,
Yeah.
that's just the
Oh,
story of
yeah.
my life.
I've given up.
Yeah.
If we just accept that fact
Yes.
and move on,
I've
it'll be
learned
so
to
much
accept
better.
Well, being the senior member of this panel with the older kids, I do have a little bit more experience with this topic because it was extremely challenging for me to raise my children, and one of the things I learned to keep my sanity was to lower my expectations. So the kids don't pick up their toys. We don't exactly live in a museum. So the dishes don't get done tonight. Because I too was raised in a house where everything was neat and the dishes were done. So I really learned to lower my expectations, and that made a huge difference. The other thing is, I gave up on trying to cook big meals the way I was raised. So I do my best with what I can do, but I will tell you, I have a file in my kitchen till today of every menu of every restaurant in my neighborhood. So instead of sitting a half a day of making grape leaves, it actually takes me 30 seconds to make grape leaves because that's how long it takes me to make that phone call. And that's okay. Again, you really have to lower your expectations. I know some women take pride in making things from scratch. I would love to do that, but it's just, like Najwa said, priorities. Also, I have one game night where we have to just sit together and do something as a family. And we still try to do that, even though my children are older. And to-do lists. I cannot tell you how important to-do lists are when you are juggling a lot of balls. And I always make my to-do list the night before. I check off what I did, I add what I need to, and it's a starting point for the next day. And it's okay if you don't get everything done, because there is always another day, and you just have to stay focused on the priorities. And finally, the one thing that used to help me a lot is when the kids had to do their homework, I literally had 3 desks in my family room. My desk and a desk for each of my children. And so they had to sit next to me while I worked. They had to do their homework and they could ask questions. And it was a funny scenario, but actually it worked out very well.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I think for me, it was going along with the same theme of making lists and going there. But for me, I feel like my priorities change daily. So what I do is I have my main priorities, which are family and work, and then whatever else I'm doing on the side for the community or anything like that. And what I do is I think, okay, what absolutely needs to be done today? If I have a very important meeting for work, I plan my day or my week around that meeting. If my kids have a game or they have a play date or they have something that they really want to do, guess what? I'm planning my week or my day around that first. And then my work will have to be flexible. And that's just kind of how I change it daily. So today, I'm sorry kids, I have a really important meeting. I'm stuck until 4 o'clock, but after 4 o'clock, I'm yours. Or if the kids want to go to the zoo one day, guess what? I'm going to take a personal day and I'm going to take them to the zoo. So I think that's how I balance things. And I feel like I've let go with it's okay to not be 100% everywhere at all times, because that's something I struggled with. If I'm going to do something, I got to do it great or not at all. And again, same thing you all have said is it's okay. If I don't have a home-cooked meal today, we'll get pizza. It's not a big deal.
Or go visit Teta.
Yeah. It's funny, we're going to pick up food from Teta today. So, but it's very good to have that support system as well and say, hey, I don't have anything today. Let's go visit someone, or what would you like to eat? And kind of go from there. And I feel like the same along the lines of lower my expectations is don't be so hard on myself. I was so hard on myself and so, I got to do this, I got to get it done. And I stretched myself too thin. And accepting things and just letting it go with the flow, I think really helped me get through it.
I had an experience one time for the single mothers out there who are trying to work. When I first got divorced, I was very confused about the effect of the divorce on my kids. And so I was buying them games and just showering them with everything because I wanted to make sure that they were happy. And I was losing complete control of my kids. And so I went and consulted with a child therapist, like, you know, what am I doing wrong? And he said that, well, first of all, stop buying games for your kids because you can't buy their love.
Right.
The one thing that children of divorced professional parents absolutely need is structure,
Yes.
a safe place, and rules and boundaries.
Yep.
And those are the things that mean more to them than the games. And honestly, after I started practicing that, I regained control of my children, and we were much happier.
Yep.
And it was an eye-awakening experience for me.
Yeah.
So I've seen moms who have tried to actually go back to work after they've been at home for a while. And so in a previous profession I had, I was a manager, and I had, you know, some employees who said, okay, I've been at home for the last year or two, it's time for me to get back out into the work field. And I've seen so many people struggle with that, with not having the structure. And that's, I know one thing that if if my kids didn't go to bed at the same time every single night, I mean, it would be complete chaos in our home. I think that that's the only reason, like, I think a marriage works sometimes is you know, at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, they're in bed. I can actually talk to my husband for 10 minutes before he falls asleep or I fall asleep or whatever it is. But I think that structure is so key because I see them struggle. Oh, yeah, you know, he's not used to going to bed early, and then the mom's coming in the next day and she's exhausted, or the husband's taken off of work to sit with. It's a mess. So I think structure is very much key.
Routine.
Yeah.
Routine is a big thing. And I can tell you, coming from a blended family, my parents divorced at a young age, and I remember people asking me, well, didn't you grow up thinking like you were missing something? And I told them, no, I never felt like I was missing anything because my parents never made me feel like I was missing something. They never made me feel like, oh, poor Tahara, her parents are divorced, we need to shower her with gifts, we need to make up for things. So if you don't do that and you just go on about like, okay, something's going on, a big personal change is coming, but no big deal. You're still going to bed, we still have dinner, or we still do what we need to do and move forward. So it's, kids bounce off of you and your feelings and your routines and your moods. So if you continue that, I feel like it can help out. And I've noticed that with my own blended family now, with having the two daughters come in. So it was hard to do that.
I think one of the things we all have to keep in mind, whether the child is 3 or 14 or 20, children are very, very perceptive.
Yes.
And they see and understand exactly what's going on around them. So I think one of the things that we need to do as mothers is always be honest with your child, no matter how old they are, because you want to be able to build that trust. And they already know what's going on. It doesn't matter if they're 3 years old. They know exactly what's going on.
Yep.
And I think to that point, they also know if you had a bad day at work.
Yes.
They also know if you're stressed out at work. And, you know, I think another thing that helps keep everything calm and not necessarily chaotic at home is kind of leaving work at work. And when you're home, that's like your happy place with your kids or your family, or, you know, even spending time with just yourself or your friends. So I think keeping the two separate is super important.
So I think in having this discussion, it's safe to say that both you and I are just going through transitional moments in our life because I'm leaving the school that I was working at for 3 years to move on to a different school and teach a new grade level. And, you know, just secretly in my head, I kept thinking, how am I going to be able to balance, you know, this new grade level, and my daughter's beginning high school and my son is going to a new school. And so I think with all of that chaos and everything, I had to talk to them, you know, and pretty much explained, like, it's going to be a smooth transition, and I'll do my best to make it a seamless transition. I mean, I can't promise
Yeah.
that. And I think one of the things that I've learned now is I can honestly, unapologetically say no.
Yes.
We don't have time to do that, or we can't do that, because before I would just want to do anything that they asked to do to continue to provide them with
Right.
experiences. But sometimes I can't do that. Realistically speaking, there are things that, you can't do. So I say no sometimes, and it's okay. And I don't need to
That's right.
apologize for saying we're not doing something. Or,
One of the things that I learned with my children is they all have chores because, again, I'm a single
Yeah.
mom and I can't do everything. And I noticed a lot of their friends don't have chores, and they're always fighting me like, well, why do we have chores and, so-and-so doesn't? And I'm like, well, so-and-so's mom has a husband that helps her, and so you still have to do your chores.
That's definitely important. Everybody's got to pitch in and do their part.
Absolutely. Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work, huh?
That's right.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining our panel. I think I got some good insights. Makes me feel like I'm not alone, not the only one struggling out there, and I hope it helped you. And thank you again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Her Path to Success.